Operation Ebola. U.S. President Barack Obama honors healthcare workers serving on the front lines in West Africa. Solar strategy. Morocco takes a big step towards becoming a cutting-edge energy producer. And the new Avengers. Another trailer goes viral. Africa 54 starts right now.
Hello and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. Clashes erupted on the streets of Burkina Faso's capital Thursday after thousands of demonstrators stormed the nation's parliament and trashed the state television offices. The protests forced President Blaise Compaoré to ditch a plan to extend his 27-year rule. Smoke billowed in the air in Ouagadougou after protesters started fires, causing damage to nearby buildings and vehicles. Emergency services say at least 3 protesters were shot and killed, and several others were wounded by security forces when the crowd tried to storm the home of Compaoré's brother. Lawmakers had been due to vote on Thursday on a government plan to change the constitution to allow President Compaoré, who took power in a coup in 1987, to stand for re-election next year when he was due to step down. Well, Zambian Vice President Guy Scott has become Sub-Saharan Africa's first white leader in 20 years following Tuesday's death of President Michael Sata in London. Mr. Scott outlined the next steps in the nation's political process.
According to the provisions of the Republican Constitution, elections for the office of President will take place within 90 days. In the interim, under the Republic Constitution, I am now acting President of Zambia, mandated to oversee this process.
Mr. Scott is not eligible to run for president because his parents were from Scotland. However, the Zambian government last week presented lawmakers with a new draft constitution that would eliminate the Zambian-born parent requirement for candidates. U.S. President Barack Obama says the United States may continue to see individual cases of Ebola until the outbreak in West Africa is contained. At the White House Wednesday, Mr. Obama honored U.S. health workers who have returned from West Africa and those planning to go. He called them heroes who are serving with skill and courage by putting themselves in the heart of the Ebola epidemic for no other reason than a sense of duty. The president says they make him confident that Ebola will be contained and snuffed out, saying U.S. efforts are already making a difference.
No other nation is doing as much to help in West Africa as the United States of America. When I hear people talking about American leadership and then are promoting policies that would avoid leadership and have us running in the opposite direction and hiding under the covers, it makes me a little frustrated.
On a recent U.S. controversy, President Obama says that policies on quarantines and isolation of health workers who have had contact with Ebola patients should not be such that they discourage Americans from helping fight the disease. Several U.S. states have ordered mandatory quarantines of medical personnel returning to the U.S. from West Africa. Meantime, U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel has ordered a 21-day quarantine for U.S. military personnel returning from the 3 Ebola-stricken countries of Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. Now to the Middle East, the Islamic State militant group, also known as ISIS or ISIL, has captured hundreds of women and girls over the last few months. The very few who have been able to escape tell stories of rape, forced marriage, and sexual slavery. VOA's Aisha Tanzim has our report.
This 15-year-old Yazidi girl was taken from Mount Sinjar in northern Iraq by Islamic State militants. Moved from prison to prison, she was forced to marry multiple fighters. She managed to escape by drugging her captors with narcotics found in their house. Now she recalls the horror.
I was sold in Syria. I stayed about 5 days with my 2 sisters. Then one of my sisters was sold and taken to Mosul, and I remained in Syria.
She's one of hundreds of women and girls, mostly Yazidis, the Islamic State has captured and then tortured, raped, sold into slavery, or forced to marry their fighters, according to United Nations and human rights groups. Most of them are still being held. A few have been able to call home, either because they were able to hide their phones or because their captors let them. They sound hopeless, says Bahar Ali of the international charity MR Foundation.
They ask them, please tell Iraqi authority, please tell U.S. and other international community to bomb these places that we are living now. We want to die. We don't want to live because we are dying already.
Human Rights Watch recently published a report on forced marriage and conversion of Yazidis by the Islamic State. Bill Frelick of HRW says the response from the Islamic State shows it is unapologetic, even proud.
The ISIS came out on the same day saying, no, everything that Human Rights Watch said was entirely correct. This is true, and this is something that we are proud of having done, and that these are spoils of war. And they went on to explain how it is that they could commit these abuses, which they don't look upon as abuses at all.
The University of Virginia recently held a conference on Islamic State violence against women. Activists from the field gave chilling accounts of human rights abuses. They also emphasized that resources on the ground to help the victims have been stretched thin and that international donors are not stepping forward. Aisha Tanzim, VOA News, Washington.
Well, in East Africa, thousands of South Sudanese refugees are mired in flooded camps in Ethiopia. And now, Math van der Wolf reports from a camp in Gambela.
While the heaviest rains are over, Camp Lechor is still dealing with the aftermath of the rainy season. Some 80% of the grass-thatched houses built for refugees were destroyed by flooding. Camp's residents say they sometimes had to move 4 times to try to stay dry.
All non-food items given to us were damaged. Blankets were always wet and the plastic sheets were destroyed. The rain destroyed everything.
All our property was damaged when we moved from the other place, and even in this tent, the water still comes inside.
But even though families move their tents to higher ground, water still comes in at night. The rains were exceptional this year. Pools of still water and mud are now a perfect breeding ground for diseases, and the number of malaria cases has gone up. And these grass areas are full of snakes, causing many bites and infections. Roads to Camp Lechor have been flooded and can only be reached by helicopter or boat, constraining aid organizations.
We have to bring all our materials, whether being food items or non-food items. We bring them from Gambela. And then this has to come through boat. Of course, this also has a cost implication. In terms of logistics within the camp also, people are scattered widely. We have to move the service where they go.
Of the almost 48,000 refugees that were here, only 28,000 remain, with the rest now living among the Ethiopian community. Niagir Wuchlu took her 3 children and left her flooded tent to rent a tukul from an Ethiopian.
Every month I get 60 kilos of wheat. I sell 15 kilos of my ration, and with that money I pay the rent of $5.
Rents for tukuls have gone up with the refugee demand to get out of the flooded camps. Local Ethiopians say they welcome the refugees.
Our work now is good, better than before, because now more refugees are accommodated in the village here, outside of the camps.
But despite these small economic gains for some Ethiopians, there remains immense pressure on Ethiopian authorities and aid organizations to provide for all these South Sudanese refugees, whether in flooded camps or housed locally. Marta van der Wolf for VOA News, Gambela, Ethiopia.
Well, abandoned more than 2 decades ago, Somalia National University, located in the nation's capital, recently reopened to students from across the war-ravaged country. Ine Thompson has the story.
Tucked away in the Hamawain district of Mogadishu are newly refurbished buildings holding Somalia's National University. The last time there was life here was 23 years ago, before the war. But now Somalians are invited to acquire knowledge in pre-university courses in mathematics, physics, biology and English.
I'm going to recommend, for example, all the Somali students girls and the boys together. The moment, for example, they graduate, for example, the high schools to join us, to share this happiness with us, to join this, for example, cheerfulness with us, and to share the happy life that we're just leading, for example, here in Somali State University.
After the departure of the Islamist militants in 2011, the federal government of Somalia had the security and support it needed to mobilize financial and technical assistance from local businesses to rehabilitate the campus.
The government creates what's called the equal opportunity, because when there is a private education, a lot of young people are not accessible because of the economic situation.
Somalia's government has many challenges to overcome as it works to rebuild institutions of higher learning like this one. Soon it will have the support of the graduating classes of SNU to assist in their country's long road to recovery. Ini Thompson for VOA News, Washington.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, sun power. Morocco looks to the sky to power the North African country. And the details just ahead.
I wanted to present music and a side of American culture that is most important to me, that is a part of who I am. They're going to get some incredible performances. That's one of the things I love, bringing these artists in so you can get to see them do what they do. It's soul music, and that's what music is. It's that which comes from the soul.
I'm Milar Sega. I'm the host of VOA's The Correspondents, a roundup of the world's top stories with analysis from our dedicated reporters. It's really a conversation the same way that you would bring a friend to your home and ask them what's going on. And our correspondents will do that and answer those questions through their own eyes.
That appears a false choice in more ways than one.
We can't actually put you there, but we can come pretty close. In 30 minutes, we'll show you the world.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Time now for tonight's health report. According to the experts, colorectal cancer is the third most common cancer worldwide and the fourth most common cause of death for both men and women. But the survival rate is high if it is diagnosed early enough. VOA's George Puttich looks at a new test for colon cancer.
Doctors say the most reliable test for colon cancer is a colonoscopy, looking inside the patient's large intestine. With a special instrument, they can look for potentially deadly polyps and remove them on the spot. But University of Miami oncologist Ike Akunyili says the procedure is not a popular one.
You have to put something through somebody's behind, and a lot of people don't like it.
That is why many patients opt for the less invasive fecal occult blood test, which can be done at home but is less reliable. It cannot detect polyps and even misses some cancers. But a new way to test stool samples called Cologuard claims to be 92% accurate in identifying colorectal cancer. Akunyili says this is especially good news for patients who avoid colonoscopies.
It might increase uptake and make more people who are hesitant about getting screened get screened.
Patients can collect a stool sample at home and send it to a laboratory where it is screened for several genetic markers associated with polyps and early-stage tumors. Mayo Clinic gastroenterologist David Alquist says the new test may lead to fewer colorectal cancer cases, just as the pap smear test lowered the number of cervical cancer cases.
There's no reason why application of Cologuard broadly through our population couldn't achieve the same thing for colon cancer. Our goal is to eradicate colon cancer.
As screening for genetic markers becomes more sophisticated, doctors say the test may soon be able to identify other gastrointestinal cancers. George Putic, VOA News, Washington.
Well, turning to today's technology, Morocco says its first solar energy plant will begin operating next year. The plant is part of a multi-billion-dollar project aimed at satisfying the growing needs for energy in the North African kingdom. We get the details from VOA's Latza Hook.
Morocco gets more than a half of its energy from coal, but as its energy requirements grow, the government is encouraging Moroccans to look for cleaner sources of energy.
We need to find alternative forms of energy to meet Morocco's needs, and the best is solar. It's free energy that is unlimited, available, and abundant in Morocco.
Morocco's first solar power plant is being built near the desert gateway city of Ouarzazate.
Ouarzazate is an environmentally sustainable city with energy, recycling, land reclamation, and water-saving resources. It's also about micro-irrigation, wastewater reuse, lighting with solar. It's a smart city.
The $770 million project is expected to have the capacity to generate 160 megawatts. The World Bank, the African Development Bank, and the European Investment Bank are helping to finance the solar complex built by Saudi Arabia. Officials call the project the largest of its kind in the world, and they say it will be operational next year. To raise awareness of the potential of solar energy for Morocco, the oil-scarce country organized its first international solar festival.
We organized this festival to show one idea. Gold is in the sky. The sun is a treasure for our country. We want to demonstrate this through three main areas: arts and culture, science and technology, knowledge and discovery.
Morocco expects to build 5 new solar plants by 2020 with a combined production capacity of 2,000 megawatts at an estimated cost of $9 billion. Officials are hoping to produce enough clean energy to export some of it to nearby Europe. Zlatica Hoke, VOA News, Washington.
Well, with its rich reserves of untapped natural gas, Mozambique is poised to become a major energy supplier, a fact that became a central talking point in a recent national election. But not everyone is as basking in the nation's accumulating riches. VOA's Anita Powell explains from Maputo.
Dora Mondlane has lived in this Maputo home for more than a decade. While her country is getting richer by the day, she says she sees no sign of it from her house. These graves are just a meter from her front door. As Mozambique's GDP has steadily risen, Mondlane says her living conditions on the edge of Maputo's largest cemetery have only worsened. Her gravedigger husband earns less than 2,000 meticals, about $65, a month.
I live here because I don't have money to buy a new house. It's about 3 million metical to buy a new place. How am I going to come up with 3 million metical?
Mozambique's top political players are keenly aware of that and made the economy a pillar of their election campaigns. The ruling Frelimo party promises foreign investment will eventually bring prosperity. And Maputo is booming, but that has pushed up high-end rentals, which in turn squeezes the lower end of the market. That leaves some residents, literally, living in the land of the dead. Cemetery workers said they had seen people sleeping inside these mausoleums at night, but none were there during our daytime visit. We're here in Maputo's largest cemetery. It's full to bursting with graves. They're only about this far apart, and there's not much room for more. And in some of these mausoleums, which have clearly been abandoned for many years, there are clear signs that people have been in here. Outside the cemetery, a driver said he knew of at least one couple living inside.
They're living here and they're hiding here. And this is it's a very difficult place to, when they're being chased by people, no one can come inside here.
Just around the corner, a young man lives in this shack. Charles wouldn't tell us his full name. But he did say he came from the countryside to the city looking for work, but found none and now can't afford housing. However, Charles says he voted in the recent election, choosing Frelimo, in hopes that his fortunes will change. Anita Powell, VOA News, Maputo, Mozambique.
Well, still to come on Africa 54. Attention, all muggles. A London hotel offers up Harry Potter themed dream rooms. We'll take you inside, but first, a recap of Thursday's headlines.
If you've just joined us, I'm Mariama Diallo, and here is a quick recap of today's headlines.
In Sudan, voter registration begins this week under cloud of apathy as the ruling party gives a final approval for President Omar Hassan al-Bashir to run again and extend his 25-year rule. In Sierra Leone, British medics train local hygienists to treat Ebola victims. In Ghana, Samantha Power, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, called for more international support for West Africa in the fight against Ebola while visiting the affected countries. Finally, thousands of South Africans celebrated the life of the murdered football captain Senzo Meyiwa in a sports stadium in Johannesburg.
That's it for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending.
Puppets tangled in strings.
A new extended trailer of Marvel's highly anticipated Avengers: Age of Ultron is now online. It features a new scene showing the Avengers sitting around a table drinking and unsuccessfully trying to lift Thor's hammer before they are interrupted by Ultron. Last week's teaser became Marvel's most viewed trailer to date, accumulating over 34 million views within the first 24 hours of its online release. Avengers: Age of Ultron is set for a global release in spring 2015. Next up, one of Washington, D.C.'s most fabulous Halloween traditions. Thousands of spectators showed up for the popular high-heel race in DuPont Circle. Some 100 drag queens dressed in elaborate costumes and, of course, pumps galloped down the street. The annual race is one of the capital city's more unique Halloween events, which has been taking place on the Tuesday before Halloween every year since it began in 1986. The race has inspired similar drag queen races in other countries. Well, and finally, a hotel room that is a dream come true for Harry Potter fans. Well, the Georgian House Hotel in London offers guests the opportunity to feel as if they are sleeping at Hogwarts, the School of Wizardry in Harry Potter book series. 2 rooms have been transformed into supernatural chambers adorned with potion bottles, candles, even a fake Mona Lisa holding a wand. Guests can buy packages for 2 that include a night stay in the wizard chambers with breakfast and a Muggle walking tour for around $400. And no, the room doesn't come with a personal messenger owl. And that is what is trending today. Now, when children lift their voices in song, it doesn't take a translator to get the message. The Young People's Chorus of New York City is a fine example of that musical power. VOA's Bernard Schassman shares their story.
It was a given at this solemn occasion of the 2014 dedication of the 9/11 World Trade Center Museum that the Young People's Chorus of New York City would be selected to perform for survivors, families, and dignitaries, including President and Mrs. Obama. The award-winning chorus melds children from ages 7 to 18 in 6 different choral groups. This group is called Prelude, boys and girls ages 7 to 10. After making it through auditions, the youngsters, under the leadership of artistic director, founder, and conductor Francis Nunez, learns the basics. Ultimately, that teaching takes on a magnificent sound. But the primary goal is not becoming the greatest singer in the world or worldwide recognition. Nunez says it's opening their eyes to the world toward their fellow man in a wonderful way through music.
Music really makes a difference in a child's life. It changes who they are. It changes their brain because it makes it grow. It gives them ideas of learning about other cultures. What I want to see is using the concept of singing, the concept of song, to bring together children from different neighborhoods. So if you surround yourself by people that are very different and have many different experiences.
The repertoire ranges from Renaissance and classic traditions through gospel, folk, pop, contemporary, and world music. But the idea is to harness the power of music to fulfill the potential of every child. Underlining it all is the fact that 100% of the YPC children graduate from high school on time and go on to some kind of college.
I think in my personal life it really has changed it because it's pointed me in a new direction, and I found myself being able to set goals that I didn't think I could before. I'm thinking about college now, and I'm thinking about what I want to do in the future.
From this successful competition in Basel, Switzerland, to a concert in Japan and performances in China and at home in major cities, the list of invitations is never ending. And with it has come recognition, including a performance and receipt of a National Arts and Humanities Youth Program Award at the White House.
This is wonderful talent, and I know that each and every one of you are going to go on to do some amazing things.
The youngsters know they're part of something special, and their lives will never be the same.
Excited and happy and different kinds of emotions when you sing.
Experience so many different things, musically, socially, different people from different backgrounds. You get to tour the world. You know, in the summers we go to Japan. I went to Prague and Austria.
We get to sing different songs. The conductors teach us so much. Each year we leave knowing much more than we did when we came in.
One composer said, it shows that you can take young people, give them a very, very high goal, and expect them to achieve it, and they will achieve it. Bernard Chessman, VOA News, New York.
And that's it for today. Thanks. Good night.
Welcome to the Voice of America's News Words. This word has to do with health care in the United States.
John Boehner, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, does not like President Barack Obama's health care reforms.
Why did the president mislead the American people when he promised they could keep their health care plan? Why is Obamacare forcing Americans to lose access to the doctors they like?
The Affordable Care Act, often called Obamacare, is the president's program to provide health care for Americans.
Despite early problems with the program's website, the White House hopes that many Americans will use Obamacare to get health care.
Now, when you hear the word Obamacare, you will know what this news word means.